Here at Kent County, we strive to provide a diverse, equitable, and inclusive environment for our county employees, as well as county residents. Hi, I'm Steve Kelso, Communications Manager for the Kent County Health Department. Today, we're looking at some of the efforts that we're making here in Kent County as we work towards those goals. Perhaps most notably, in May of 2021, the county hired its first ever Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Officer. That's Teresa Branson. Now, Teresa, you're new to this position, but Teresa is certainly not a stranger to us here at Kent County. You spent more than 25 years here at the Health Department with in various administrative roles. In a way, you're a bit of a trailblazer.
Yes, it certainly has been a blessing, Steve, and thanks for having me. Yes, I've been working with the county for 25 years, and it is a tremendous, responsibility to be named the county's first ever Chief Inclusion Officer. And yeah, when you say trailblazer, that comes with a great deal of responsibility, both to our staff, our Board of Commissioners, and most importantly, the residents here in Kent County, who deserve to make sure that they feel included in county government, to make sure that they have access to the services that we have to provide. I've been amazed through the years that we have so many good things that we offer, but oftentimes our community doesn't always know about that. And so one of the things I really want to make sure that I do in this new role, in this new position, is community engagement. Making sure that everybody in our community feels engaged, making sure everybody is informed, and making sure that everybody feels included in the work that we are doing.
Talk to me a little bit about what is DEI. We hear this term quite a bit in today's society, and what we've done so far, and what maybe your goals are as we move forward into 2022.
Yes, well, diversity, equity, and inclusion, it's not new, right? So these are issues and topics that have been around for years. I'm very thankful that the county has established this office within our county administration. I report directly to Al Vanderberg, our new county administrator. So when I think about diversity, it's about everything that makes up who we are, all the different kinds of unique characteristics that we bring. But it's more than just about diversity, it's about equity. And equity is kind of more something that's kind of more emerged in the past, few years. So what are we doing to ensure access? Equitable access to services, equitable access to who does business with Kent County, equitable access to make sure people have information in ways that they can receive it. Making sure we're breaking down barriers, to make things easier for people to achieve their full potential and outcomes, whatever it is that they seek to do. And then when we think about inclusion, I've had many people ask me in this position, am I just focused on race? And I've said, race is a big factor. One of the things we're going to be looking at is what are we doing to ensure racial equity in different outcomes? But it's more than race. When we think about inclusion, we have to make sure in Kent County, we're a big place. We have 25 different departments, over 1,700 employees. So we want to make sure that those 1,700 employees and more, and everyone who does business with the county and everyone who comes through every single door feels like they're included. So we can work very hard, and we have worked very hard to ensure a diverse workforce, but what are we doing to make sure that the people who work for Kent County feel included? What are we doing to make sure that a very diverse population, over 650,000 people who call Kent County home, who work in Kent County, who play in Kent County, what are we doing to make sure they feel included? And I always like to say diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. So when I think about belonging, and in the spirit of we're coming up on Martin Luther King Day, totally about belonging, right? So we can have diversity in our workforce and in our community. We can have and work towards access and equity. We can work towards being as inclusive as we can. But if people don't feel like they belong here in Kent County, then we have a lot of work to do. And so one of the initiatives that I've been working on, and predated me as well, is a welcoming plan. So there's an initiative called Gateways for Growth that started about 2 to 3 years ago. And it is focused a lot on refugee populations and immigrant populations, but it's really making sure that anybody who is new to Kent County feels welcome, to make sure that they belong, and to make sure that they have access and opportunities to reach their full potential and to become a part of the society and home that many of us have here in Kent County.
And that sense of belonging, that inclusion is important to everyone because it really gets the best out of everyone as far as becoming contributing members of society and serves us all, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And I mean, that's just scratching the surface. Other areas that we're focusing on is we're going to be launching a new diversity, equity, and inclusion strategic plan. Now, our Kent County Board of Commissioners underwent a strategic planning process, and one of the goals and priorities is inclusive participation. So we're going to be building upon that. So we just finished up, wrapped up a 5-year diversity, equity, inclusion plan, but now again to have this new position, new role, new administrator, I'm really anxious to kind of roll up my sleeves and get to work with our leadership, our staff, our community, to really look forward. Where do we want to be in the next 3 to 5 to 10 years when we think about advancing diversity, equity, and inclusion in Kent County? Kent County is a great place. We can be a wonderful place for everybody to prosper.
This question may be a little premature because you are just really getting into those planning stages, but how will you measure success down the road?
Yes, I appreciate you asking. You know, the Kent County Cultural Insight Council is in a group of about 30 individuals that represent our 25 different departments, and they have been working very hard over the past 25 years. So I think those individuals, too, are a testament to what can be done. But we have to continually look upstream to what else we can achieve. So when I think about how we're going to measure diversity, equity, and inclusion in Kent County, throughout COVID, you know, we did a great job, I think, at the health department, across other county departments, to make sure that we were listening to community. And we can come up with all the measures we want, and that is a part of the plan, to make sure we have a robust data system and dashboard to measure how we're doing with our diversity in the workplace. And not just the diversity in the workplace, but what does that look like at different levels and different positions across the county? How are we doing with our supplier and vendors in terms of increasing diversity there and belonging? What are we doing to, I mentioned those other aspects of diversity and inclusion and belonging. So I'm planning on embarking on an equity organizational assessment, and as well as just building up a diversity, equity, inclusion dashboard that can kind of measure from employees' perspective a sense of inclusion and belonging. And there are academic instruments to be able to measure for that. But I think we have to continue to build public trust. So I think we do that by sharing a data dashboard specifically around diversity, equity, and inclusion as one way to measure success, but the ultimate measure is going to be how does our community perceive us in Kent County? Do they feel like no matter what their interaction is, whether it's with you, with myself, with any of our leaders, with any of our staff, no matter what door they go into or no matter what community we go into, if they feel that they are treated with dignity and respect, which is a core value to Kent County, then I will say that that is a true measure of success. And also, if they feel like our engagement with them, and when I say them, all aspects of the community, from the urban areas of Grand Rapids to the rural areas, to the far corners of our communities, it's the people who live and work and call Kent County home that are going to be the ultimate measure by which we say whether we're successful or not. How they feel, has our community been heard? Do they think Kent County is responsive to their needs? And are we treating everyone with dignity and respect and providing opportunities for everyone to reach their full potential?
You know, you mentioned Dr. Martin Luther King. We are pretty much coming up celebrating the Martin Luther King Day here in the next couple of days. And I'm wondering, as we look back on Dr. King's legacy, that legacy of love and inclusion, how some of that informs your work.
You know, many of the things that Dr. King stood for, you know, I embody personally. The fact that, we're sitting here in the room today, two different races, different backgrounds, and we can be talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion in 2022 just amazes me that, one, because of Dr. King and many other leaders, all the steps that have been taken, the marches for people's rights and opportunities to lead, to excel, to do whatever you'd like to do in America. And, I'm a gal that many may not know, but, I grew up at 1337 Alexander here in Grand Rapids and was raised someplace else. But it just goes to show that on a personal level, you can achieve anything that you put your mind to doing. You mentioned, many roles I've had here at the health department. It's opportunities that have been afforded to me, but it's also been because of hard work. And to be the first diversity, equity, inclusion officer, and as we're coming up on Dr. MLK Day, what that means to me with the principles that he has championed, it's keeping that fire going, not being afraid to do what's right, even if you're standing alone. I feel a tremendous amount of support, both from our leadership, our staff, our community, who has had a great outpouring of just support since I've been in this position, and from our Board of Commissioners, who had to approve this position. And so I think it's very important to have that kind of leadership and support, especially in times like we've been in. During COVID, we've also had protests in our community. So I think when I look back on everything that Dr. King stood for and think about the role that I have now, that I don't just see it as my responsibility, I see it as our responsibility, and that we never, never, never stop doing what's right.
It's interesting you mentioned that here we sit in 2022, two different races having this conversation. And yet I get this feeling that there's a perception in our country that we are so incredibly divided that this is somehow anomalous, that you and I shouldn't maybe even be able to sit down and have these conversations. We can't stop doing this, can we? We have to reach out across all aisles, across all neighborhoods, if we're going to get anywhere.
Absolutely. And I think it's comfortable for people to talk just about diversity and inclusion. I think people get that. But when we talk about equity, I think that means different things to people. But I want our community to know, when I think about equity, I think about fairness. I don't always think about equal, because I understand not everybody needs the same things. Our communities are different, our populations are different. And sometimes that calls for different needs for different groups and different people in different times. So you're right, it may seem like an anomaly to some, but we have to be intentional and we have to be strategic. And since I've been in this role, I have been very intentional, and even before then, about who we interact with, when we do, and to be careful that I'm not leaving anybody out. And I've asked people, hey, tell me, if there's groups and people that I need to be reaching and I'm not, help me make those connections. I don't pretend to have all the answers, but together, when we sit across the table from each other, or however we can convene, I want to have those critical conversations. I want people to tell me, hey, you need to be thinking about this, or you need to be thinking about that. And how can we do that together?
What's the most important thing you want people to know? And what can I do? What can I do?
Thank you. There's certainly plenty of work to be done. We are going to have a very lofty agenda in Kent County and much community interest when it comes to diversity, equity, inclusion. We already do. The biggest thing I think people can do is to join me. I'm one person. I have a few people on my team, but we have great leadership in the county. Again, we have 25 departments. That's 25 department directors leading their departments. And in the community, we have become a partner. If you're not already partnering with Kent County, please join us in that capacity. I invite everyone who wants to be a part of our journey to advancing diversity, equity, and inclusion to become a part of that solution and just to work with us. And I can speak for administration when I say we are very much wanting more community engagement, and we understand that means we need to get out of our offices, get into the community to truly understand and meet people where they are.
Well, I want to tell you how much I appreciate you taking some time to talk with me this afternoon. I hope our conversation can spur a few more conversations. If you'd like to learn more, you can go to accesskent.com. And again, thank you, Teresa Branson, Kent County's first Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Officer, for joining us today. We'll be back with more topics later, and thanks for watching.
Thank you.